August 24, 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupts. The sky rips apart. A towering column of ash and fire shoots into the heavens. Burning rocks rain down like deadly hail. Then comes the pyroclastic surge, a superheated cloud of gas and volcanic matter racing down the mountainside at over 100 miles per hour. Nothing can outrun it. It swallows everything in its path. Homes, temples, markets, people. Within hours, the thriving city of Pompeii vanishes beneath layers of volcanic ash and pumice. But before that catastrophic moment, before the mountain unleashed its fury, there was life. Vibrant, bustling, ordinary life. Pompeii wasn't just another dot on the Roman Empire's map. It was a jewel, a prosperous port city where beauty met commerce, where wealth flowed as freely as the wine from nearby vineyards. Nestled between rolling hills and the sparkling Mediterranean Sea, Pompeii seemed invincible, streets paved with precision, lavish villas boasting interior courtyards and gardens, shops bursting with goods from across the empire. Everywhere you looked, civilization thrived. This was a city that felt permanent, as if nothing could ever shake its foundation. Until everything changed in a single day. Just hours before disaster struck, Pompeii was alive. Morning sunlight warmed the marble columns lining the forum. Intricate mosaics glittered inside wealthy homes. The mouth-watering aroma of freshly baked bread drifted through narrow alleyways. In the town square, merchants shouted over each other, hawking colorful fabrics, fresh fish, and exotic spices imported from distant lands. Barefoot children chased each other around public fountains, their laughter echoing off stone walls. Women leaned from second-story balconies, calling down to neighbors. Everything felt normal, safe, eternal. The day began like any other. Wooden carts rattled along cobblestone streets, loaded with fruit, amphoras of wine and olive oil. Vendors barked out prices, hands exchanged coins, water splashed from decorative fountains. Mothers shouted for their kids to come inside. Bakeries worked overtime, producing round loaves and flatbreads, some for common workers, others for wealthy patricians who'd never set foot in a kitchen. The smells, intoxicating. Eastern spices mingled with fresh-pressed olive oil and incense smoke drifting from temple doorways. In the upscale neighborhoods, well-dressed women strolled beneath shaded porticos wearing flowing tunics fastened with gold brooches and amber jewelry. Meanwhile, the elite relaxed in their private gardens, reading scrolls, sipping sweet wine, and debating Roman politics as if the capital's dramas were nothing more than distant entertainment. Pompeii was sophisticated for its era. Advanced, organized. Take the public baths, for example. Absolute engineering marvels. Hot water circulated through complex underground pipe systems. After a long day's work, men gathered in the heated caldarium to soak, swap stories, discuss business deals, and philosophize about life. This was civilization at its peak. Yet looming over all this prosperity, over every conversation and transaction, stood the mountain, Vesuvius. And nobody was afraid. Why would they fear it? Vesuvius looked harmless, peaceful even. Its slopes were covered in lush green vineyards producing some of the sweetest grapes in the region, grapes that became wine so delicious it graced tables in Rome itself. Farmers worked its rich, dark volcanic soil. Shepherds grazed their flocks on its gentle hillsides. In summer, its shadow provided welcome relief from the scorching sun. To the people of Pompeii, Vesuvius wasn't a volcano. It was just a mountain, a generous mountain, a constant, comforting presence on the horizon. No living Pompeian had ever seen it erupt. There were no written warnings, no collective memory of destruction. It had always been there, quiet, still, safe. Or so they thought. But the earth had been trying to warn them. In the months leading up to that fateful August day, strange things started happening. Small earthquakes rattled the city. House walls creaked and groaned. Water levels in wells dropped noticeably. The water that remained looked murky, contaminated. Some people noticed animals acting weird, fleeing the area for no apparent reason. But life continued. Pompeians were used to minor tremors. This was earthquake country after all. A few shakes here and there? No big deal. Nobody connected the dots. Nobody wanted to believe anything was seriously wrong. The ground vibrated underfoot, almost like something massive was moving beneath the surface. Horses grew skittish and refused to calm down. Dogs barked at nothing, hour after hour. Cracks appeared in building facades. Wells ran drier every day. Elderly residents started sharing old stories, half-forgotten memories of when the mountain had acted strange generations ago. But younger folks dismissed these tales as superstition, old-timer nonsense. Why worry? Pompeii was strong, built to last. This was Roman engineering we're talking about, the pinnacle of human achievement. Civilizations don't just crumble because of a few tremors or some cracks in the plaster. The earth had always rumbled occasionally. That's just what it did. So people kept shopping, working, eating, loving, arguing, and planning for tomorrow, as if nothing was wrong, as if tomorrow was guaranteed. Then came that day, the day the sky went dark. Morning broke clear and bright. The sun blazed overhead. Early hours passed just like any other day, peaceful, predictable routine. Families prepared meals, servants washed linens and scrubbed floors. People debated what to wear to evening dinner parties. In the temples, priests performed their daily rituals. Slaves polished marble columns until they gleamed. Children played with homemade clay marbles in the streets. Everything was exactly as it should be, calm, ordinary, beautifully, blissfully normal. It was late morning on August 24th. Then the ground shook. A low, rumbling vibration echoed through the ground, like the earth itself had a heartbeat. Then came the roar. Massive, thunderous. Mount Vesuvius erupted. This wasn't just sound, it was the earth ripping itself apart. A scream rising from deep below. Flocks of birds scattered all at once as though shoved by some unseen hand. Goats in the fields dropped to their knees. People clutched their ears. House walls trembled violently. Clay jars shattered. Doors burst wide open. And then the sky began to transform. A towering black column shot upward like a spear piercing the heavens. Ash, smoke, glowing rocks. From the peak of Vesuvius, a shadowy beast climbed into the air. It was as if the mountain had torn open and started spewing the underworld itself. The column surged straight up, dark, thick as an ancient tree, but 1,000 times taller. It kept climbing, higher and higher, with no end in sight. The ancients might have called it a pillar of flame, but it wasn't fire. It was living ash. Dense smoke, burning fragments swirling through the clouds. The sky shifted, from bright blue to gray, then brown, then black. The sun, which had been shining just an hour earlier, now looked like a faint, trembling disk behind a wall of dust. The air grew thick. Heat pressed down on everything. Breathing became difficult. Then the pumice began to fall. Light at first, but relentless. Millions of white, gray, and red fragments drifting down like slow, unstoppable hail. At first people assumed it was just ash. Then small pebbles started hitting the ground, tiny like grains of sand. But soon, larger chunks arrived. Pumice stones poured from the sky like solid rain. They bounced off rooftops, walls, and streets. They struck heads, blinded eyes, sliced skin. Thousands fell every minute. Every hour the ground thickened with another layer. Roofs groaned under the weight. Some gave way. Ancient wooden beams snapped one by one. Grand villas, storage buildings, bathhouses, nothing was spared. Everything got buried. If a structure didn't collapse, it was swallowed whole. The streets filled with chaos. Those who could, ran. But where could they go? Some fled barefoot toward the countryside, but the ash turned the ground scorching hot. Others hid in basements and underground kitchens, barricading doors with planks, praying to the gods to calm the earth's fury. But the earth didn't listen. Screams filled the air. Mothers calling for their children, men frozen in confusion. Prayers mixed with terror and pure panic. No one knew if this was the end of the world or some horrific nightmare. Some sheltered indoors. Others sprinted toward the fields or the harbor, searching for safety, but there was no safe place. Pompeii had become a death trap. The roads turned impassable, carts overturned on slick stones, horses driven mad with fear kicked wildly. The harbor, which for centuries had welcomed merchant ships, was now out of reach. The sea pulled back, waves churned violently as if the ocean itself was terrified. The few who managed to launch boats struggled to navigate through the sudden darkness. Ash blanketed even the water. The air reeked of sulfur. Prosperous Pompeii, with its straight streets, elegant homes, and vibrant squares, had turned into a maze of suffering and confusion. And it wasn't over yet. Hours crawled by. Each minute felt like a lifetime. Families huddled together, desperate for comfort, protection, warmth. But warmth wasn't the problem. Oxygen was, and oxygen was running out fast. The cloud kept expanding, and with it, fear deepened. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, as if nature had lost all rhythm. The rain of stones never stopped. Clouds of ash grew denser, blacker. Some tried covering their faces with damp cloths. Others clawed small holes in the ground, hoping to find breathable air. Lanterns flickered out, choked by dust. The city plunged into darkness, smothered by a thick cloud that stole the air. Breaths grew shallow. Eyes burned. Ash invaded everything. Lungs, wells, doorways. Many dropped to their knees, convinced the gods were punishing the city. They called out to Jupiter, Apollo, Pluto. Even the statues seemed abandoned on their pedestals. Only silence remained. Only collapse. In the poorest neighborhoods, homes already half ruined caved in like crushed shells. Those trapped inside suffocated slowly beneath the ash. Those outside were struck by falling stones or overwhelmed by the searing air, and still Vesuvius roared. Everything that had happened so far, the pumice rain, the ash, the darkness, the terror, was just the opening act. A prologue to something far more brutal. Deep within Vesuvius, something else was building, something stronger, something that offered no escape and gave no warning. This was no longer just an eruption. This was nature detonating. A primal rage that had been gathering for hours, finally finding release. It was late afternoon. From the crater, the mountain unleashed its deadliest weapon, a pyroclastic surge. A wave of scorching gas, ash, and debris rocketed down the mountainside at unimaginable speed. Nearly 200 miles per hour. Temperatures around 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. It wasn't water, it was death in motion. A flow of superheated air, thick as liquid, moving faster than the human eye could track, shapeless, merciless. In less than 30 seconds, it covered the distance between the crater and the city. There was no escape, no safe direction. You couldn't outrun it. You couldn't scream. You couldn't even breathe. The air turned to fire. Those caught outside had no time to feel anything. Bodies locked in place instantly. The heat was so extreme that muscles contracted violently. Bones cracked. Flesh vaporized. But the shape, the position, remained. Frozen. Sealed. Inside homes, the effects were just as brutal. The cloud slipped through windows, cracks in doors, gaps beneath thresholds, like a silent, murderous fog. Animals bolted in circles before collapsing. People, hidden away, cried out to the gods. Some, in silence, embraced whoever was beside them. There was nothing left to do. Everyone who stayed in the city was struck instantly. The heat consumed their bodies, but didn't erase their final moments. Pompeii was frozen in the act of dying, like photographs of an infinite second, like tragic statues carved by catastrophe. Death had arrived, but it hadn't erased life. It had crystallized it. A mother bent over her child, a man kneeling in prayer, two bodies locked in an embrace, a chained dog desperately digging into the ground before time ran out. Pompeii became a graveyard of final gestures, a city preserved in its last breath. Every story stopped in that single moment. In a heartbeat, gestures of love, panic, faith and pain. All of it was sealed beneath an invisible shroud, destined to last 2,000 years. The deadly cloud didn't just strike Pompeii. Herculaneum, Oplontis, Stabiae, every town surrounding Vesuvius was hit. But something unique happened in Pompeii. By some strange twist of fate, the city remained perfectly sealed. Everything was swallowed whole. Nothing remained visible above ground. The city's outline vanished. Columns toppled. Temples crumbled. Streets filled in. Statues were buried. Fountains went silent. Everything that once had sound, scent, and color, gone. In less than 24 hours, Pompeii ceased to exist. It lay buried beneath 20 feet of ash and stone. No one searched for it. No one came back. Its name faded into silence. The few survivors fled without a backward glance. Many ran to Naples. Others headed toward Capua. They told fragmented stories. They spoke of a day when the sun died, of a mountain that devoured a city. But few believed them, and no one wanted to return. The world forgot. Time erased Pompeii's name just as the ash had erased its streets. Pompeii became a whisper, a tale told to children, a fading memory no one could confirm. Yet beneath the ash, something endured. Above the buried city, life moved forward. Fields turned green again. Farmers planted vineyards. Tree roots pushed down through statues, frescoes, and bodies no one knew were there. Where Pompeii once stood, there were only fields now. Fertile, generous land that produced abundant crops. Rain fell steadily. The sun warmed the soil. The new people living there had no idea what lay beneath their feet. Farmers planted vines, olive trees, and fruit orchards. They walked over tombs, painted courtyards, and tables still set for meals. No one imagined that every piece of that earth concealed an entire world. A world that died in a single day, but lived on in the memory of the soil. Centuries passed. Pompeii's name was lost to time. Rome fell. New empires rose and crumbled, and Pompeii slept. Silent, still, intact, buried under meters of ash, as if in a perfect tomb. By the Middle Ages, the name Pompeii was almost completely forgotten. A few monks had heard of a city punished by the gods, but they didn't know where it was. Some searched for it in Palestine. Others believed it was just a myth. Meanwhile, beneath layers of volcanic material, everything remained. The rooms, kitchens, stables, wells, even graffiti on the walls. No one touched them. No one could. Pompeii wasn't simply destroyed. It was hidden, invisible. Then one day, almost by accident, someone dug. It was the 1700s. Europe was changing. Science was waking up. Curiosity about the ancient world was growing. Wealthy nobles traveled to Italy to admire antiquity's wonders. During routine construction work near the Sarno River, something unusual happened. Workers digging a canal uncovered strange remains. Painted walls, mosaic floors, Roman coins, perfectly preserved clay jars. They didn't know what they'd found, but it clearly wasn't ordinary rubble. Someone alerted the authorities. Scholars arrived. Excavations began slowly, hesitantly. No one fully grasped what they were touching, but soon it became clear. An entire city was being unearthed. A city frozen on its final day. The deeper they dug, the greater the astonishment. The first walls revealed frescoes still bursting with color, as if freshly painted. Mosaics remained flawless. Perfectly preserved objects filled the ruins. Cooking tools, fire pits, candelabras, beds. Every corner spoke of daily life interrupted, but interrupted with grace, with delicacy, as if time itself wanted to protect every detail. People who saw Pompeii for the first time stood speechless. It was like stepping into an ancient dream. Each fresco depicted myths, love stories, banquets. Kitchens looked ready to be relit. Beds seemed abandoned only for the night. It was an archaeological miracle. No other place on Earth had returned such a perfectly sealed snapshot of the past. Scholars, royalty, and artists flocked from across Europe to witness the dead city that still spoke. Then they found the bodies. At first, they appeared to be just hollow spaces in the hardened ash. But when one archaeologist decided to pour liquid plaster into them, something shocking happened. The cavities returned the shapes of the people who had died there. Not just bones, not skeletons, human forms, frozen in the act of dying. A mother shielding her child, a man covering his face with his hands, a young person lying on their side, as if asleep. They were still there, right there. Fingers curled, lips parted, muscles tensed. Every body told a story. Every position revealed a final decision. These weren't just victims, they were people. And Pompeii had cared for them with terrible, heartbreaking precision. Every face held a story. Each body was a fragment of a soul left behind, trapped in time. No other place on Earth shows death so humanly, so truthfully. Catastrophes usually leave ruins. Pompeii left life, crystallized. Walking through Pompeii is like stepping inside a silent scream that's lasted 2,000 years. A scream that still echoes today. Pompeii still speaks to us, not with words, but through its ruins, through its human casts, its broken streets, its frescoes suspended in a single instant. Every time someone walks through the ancient city's gates, they become more than a visitor. They become a witness. Because Pompeii is an archive of interrupted moments, of ordinary lives frozen in their most fragile and most authentic state. You walk the narrow streets in silence. You lower your voice instinctively. It's like entering a home that isn't yours, but where everything remains. Bread on the table, a comb on the bed, footprints on the floor. As you look around, you realize those men and women weren't so different from us. They laughed, they argued, they dreamed, and suddenly, like waking from a dream, it all ended. Pompeii shows us how life thrived, just before the end, and how everything can vanish in a matter of hours. Those who visit Pompeii also visit themselves. They see their own reflections in those ancient lives. They ask, what if tomorrow were my last day? Pompeii pulls us out of the present to show us what it means to live fully, before it's too late. Because no one woke up that morning thinking it would be their last. And yet, for everyone, it was.